And I come from a family where there were 4 beautiful daughters, 6 children altogether, 4 beautiful daughters that my mother and father had, and I was one of them, and two brothers. But we were a family of, strong, independent women, and we considered ourselves feminists. And, and some of that, and the dark side of that was that, we were struggling to come out on top of a couple of generations of sexual abuse in the family. My paternal grandfather sexually abused myself and at least 2 of my other sisters, and it was at very young ages. So we had these injuries, these wounds in our life, and feminism, and as I approached my teens, pro-choice, I was confused about it. And when I was 27 years old, when I aborted my son Christopher, and full of fear and shame that I would destroy what I thought was my last chance at a new start in life and to complete my education, I chose to end his life instead. Christopher's father was on the other side of the country pursuing graduate education, and in our brief telephone conversation, he let me know that he wanted nothing to do with the child. Okay. He did not believe that it was his, and he said, "You will take care of it." I felt that I could not turn to my family. I had already made enough of a mess of my life through the years of promiscuous behavior and self-destructive behavior, impelled by those interior wounds from childhood sexual abuse. I went to the college infirmary, and I do not recall if counseling was given or adoption was mentioned. Referral was quickly arranged to an abortion clinic. With no one to turn to, I looked for support to a man who I had started to date. He was terrified that the child might be his, and I knew that it was not. He was miserable, but determined to make sure that the pregnancy was ended. He drove me to the clinic and dropped me off. We were both silent and wretched. I sat alone, and I remember the little life within me crying out to live. That cry rose to my heart and magnified every fearful, shameful thought, self-hatred, and confusion. Christopher's cries for life would remain in my memory from that day on. I can barely remember one person there, a woman, saying impatiently, "You don't have to do this." And it sounded to me as though my sorrow and remorse was an inconvenience to her. My abortion was a suction abortion. Christopher was about 8 to 10 weeks old when he was disintegrated and vacuumed out of me. The abortion hurt a lot, but the physical pain was tolerable. The emotional, mental, and spiritual pain remained with me, unbroken, for 28 years. I finished my education, married, and had 2 beautiful children. But each step of that journey, the abortion caused misery for myself and others. It increased and aggravated the wounds of my childhood. I sought a way out in pleasure-seeking, partying, and distractions, and commercialism. Relationships with men were unhealthy, and 2 divorces followed. My children suffered from my struggles and instability, and had a great deal of time dealing with the abortion, feeling that it somehow had separated me from them, and very possibly it did. My family relationships were affected. I self-sabotaged in my career. And then in total collapse following the death of my children's father, I began to turn to God. A friend gave me a rosary and suggested that prayer might help. I began to pray the rosary, and over time I returned to my Catholic faith. I received the blessings of forgiveness. I went to Rachel's Vineyard retreat and began to reconcile with Christopher and to heal. The healing is a lifetime journey, but my despair, sorrow, misery, grief, and shame dissipates over time, and each day, charity, hope, and healing continues to grow in me, and that is why I am silent no more.